Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome to my veggie garden. As you can see, I grow our vegetables in raised beds. I find it more convenient and useful and also more attractive. But building raised beds can be expensive. Not these ones though. I built all of these out of pallets and I avoided the step of having to dismantle the pallets to use the wood. So if you want to see how to build raised beds out of pallets without taking them apart first, then just keep watching. Pallets are really heavy to move, so if you want to get them from A to B, you do a push-pull kind of thing. So you push it, and then as it starts to fall, you pull. And you can just roll them to where you want to go. You may have heard that pallet wood is not safe to use in raised beds where you're going to grow food or to burn as well. This is what you need to look for. On your pallet somewhere there should be a stamp showing how the wood's been treated. HT means heat treated. There's different codes, but really the only one that you need to be wary of is MB, which stands for methyl bromide, and you don't want to use those pallets to make your raised beds because the methyl bromide can leach into the soil and into your food. But the rest are generally safe to use. I'm now going to cut the pallets up between the braces here, just all the way. That dictates the maximum height that your raised bed could be, but you can obviously make it shorter if you want it shorter. It will take less soil to fill up if you make a shorter one. Now we want to get all of these pieces of wood to be straight cut at the top and to be the same length, which will be the height of your bed. So I'm cutting mine to match my previous raised beds, which are 36.5 centimeters, and that's where I've set my guide. So I'm going to just pop them on there and run them through the table saw. There's different ways of doing this. You can use a table saw, jigsaw, hand saw, circular saw, miter saw, whatever you have. One of the ways to do this is to screw your miter saw onto a board or a solid surface to which you've also screwed a piece of wood to act as an end stopper. Put your planks against the stopper and cut them with the miter saw, and they'll all be the same length. If there's a particularly skewed top, if this is angled too deeply, then I'll put the straighter edge on there, and if they both skew, then I'll first turn it this way and cut it straight before running it through. Another tip for you is sometimes you get a board that is broken. This is broken just in a tiny piece, so that doesn't matter because it's going to get cut off. But sometimes you'll have a board that's split like that. The board doesn't need to go to waste, just go to the narrowest point, cut it straight down, and you'll just have a narrower board, but you can still use it and cut it to length, so you don't waste any of the wood. That we've already cut are going to form the facing of the raised bed, the front, back and sides, and they're going to be held together on long wooden rails. So this is about, what is it, 2.5 by 2 centimeter, whatever that is in inches. That's how thick it is. It needs to be thick enough that when you put your board on and nail it, you know, there's enough grip for the nail. And I'm going to cut this about 6 centimeters shorter than the length of the raised beds. So that's going to make it 201 for the particular bed that I'm doing. I'm going to assemble the beds, and we like to do it in this area because we have a straight template there and a template there, and it's hard enough to nail into. Don't be like us and use nails that will go through your plank, through this and out the other side, or else it's going to damage your concrete. If you use different pallets, they're not all going to match, and the thicknesses of the wood is going to be different, but I don't mind that. I think it adds to the rustic feel. More importantly is the thickness of the one that you start with, which I'll show you now. So you want your thickest board and your widest board to be your starting board, and you're going to look for your clean cut, and that's going to go at the top. So what do we do? So I'm going to put the rails there. And then I'm going to line this up with the top and with the sides and nail it in. Now you've noticed that these are slightly shorter. That's going to be important when we come to assemble it, so I'll show you that later. And that is why I cut the rail shorter. So I'm just going to start nailing them in and working my way across like that. I'm using 40mm galvanized clouts to nail the thing together. So I've come about 2/3 of the way across, and I need to know which boards to use here so it's all going to end up the right length. So I will put the end board, it's another thick one, to where I want the end to be, and then I'll stand on that to make sure it doesn't budge, and I'll start laying them in like a puzzle. You can also cut them lengthways if you need to kind of make it narrower to fit, but I'm hoping that with the different widths I can piece it in like a puzzle. Close enough. So now I can use those in that order and it's going to be the right length. I'm coming up to the end here and I'm realizing that these are actually still too long. I must have shifted them quite generously over this way when I started. So I've marked them, I'm just going to lift it up and cut those two pieces shorter, and then I can attach the last board. There you go, one side of the raised bed is done. Do exactly the same for the back, or for the other side, and then two shorter ones for the sides. You might not have pieces long enough for the entire length of your raised bed, especially if you're doing a long one, so you can stagger shorter pieces of wood. And I'm just showing you here, obviously these aren't nailed on, but I just wanted to show you how you would do that. You would stagger them by maybe 3 boards, and make sure you nail this board into both of these pieces of wood, and this one, and this one, and that will give the length of your raised bed stability. So what I would maybe do is do 1 nail in there and 2 there, and then 1 there and then 2 there, and then 2 there and 1 there, just to kind of make sure that the whole thing is held together and it's stable. Also, if you have pieces of wood, like say this piece of wood is 2/3 of the length and that's 1/3, then I would switch it around for the top and have the join be somewhere else. I've come to build the ends, and there's 2 tips I wanted to give you. 1, have your rails more towards the center, so that when you are assembling your raised bed, the other rails aren't lining up exactly with them from the front and the back that you've done. It just will save you a lot of headaches if they happen to get in each other's way. And the other tip was the actual width of your raised bed needs to be whatever width you want, minus the front and the back, because it's going to go inside of this, and that will make sense when I come to assemble it. This bed demonstrates what I was talking about. When you go to build it, this end piece is going within the side pieces. You can see there. So this end piece needs to be the full width of the bed minus however thick these two are. As for what widths I would make beds, this one is around about 90 centimeters, and I wouldn't go any deeper than that because then you'll have trouble reaching to the back. This is just about comfortable to reach to the back, and if it was any deeper I would struggle to get to all the veggies at the back. Beds like this that you access from both sides, just make sure that you can reach the center from each side. So I have my lovely assistant painting for me today, because the next step is to paint or stain your wood. This is obviously optional because the pallet wood is treated to withstand the weather, but I like how it kind of unifies everything. It ties together the different woods and it makes it look more expensive than what it is. So we're going with an Aquadeck decking stain, and we're going to do 2 coats of that. It's just going to do these 3 and not that one, because that one will be up against the greenhouse, so you won't see it anyway. My lovely assistant. Chop chop then.
I love the way you get me to do this, then tell me it's 2 coats.
time to put the beds together, there's a couple ways you can do this. I am going to screw directly into each other. So if you look on this side, you'll see how they're slot together. And I'm just going to put a screw straight in the side because I made sure this was thick. If you've got really thin ones, you can put a piece of wood there and screw this one into the piece of wood and this one into the piece of wood, and it'll hold them together. But I deliberately put thick ones on the ends so that I can just screw straight into them. I'm just going to get the front lined up, and I've got 63mm screws, which should be long enough. So I'll just start it off and then I'll line it up and put it all the way through. Really? And I'll probably do 3. So again, I'll start it off and then line it up properly. Continue with all of the sides. Don't forget to look for your smoothest, straightest side and let the more uneven side be at the bottom. Thing you want to do is put a cross brace piece. This is optional, but I do think it's wise. When your capping goes on, it's going to keep your sides from bowing, but until then you kind of don't want them to bend out. That's already bending outwards, I don't know if you can tell. So you want to just hold the sides together so that when the soil goes in, it doesn't kind of bend them out, especially if you're not doing capping pieces. And all you're going to do is get a piece of wood that is the length of that, so 85 centimeters for me, and I'm going to screw it across the middle just to hold the two together. So that's how I'm going to have it. I'm doing it underneath rather than above because I'd like to cover it with soil so it's not visible. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can go down through the top, you can go up through the bottom. I'm actually going to go in through the side and straight into that piece of wood. So again, I've got the 63mm screws and that should be sufficient. So I'm just going to measure how far down that is and line it up, probably eyeball it. Start the screw off and then lift the wood and line it up and screw it in. This bed's done and ready to be moved into position. It's in position now and it's level enough. They do kind of settle on their own, so I mean it's not exactly perfectly level, but it lines up with that and so it looks level. The only problems I've ever had with them coming apart was this one. When I was leveling this, I left the ground too loose underneath, so there wasn't enough support for this wall, and when I filled it, you can see there all 3 of the screws snapped and this whole side dropped. So I put fresh screws in to hold it together, but I learned from that you really need to make sure the base is stable. So as you saw, I was kind of digging out underneath to allow it to drop a bit, and now I need to make sure it's firm and supportive underneath there. I'm going to shove more of these stones underneath just so that it doesn't do the same thing. The next task is to fill it. I'm actually starting off with composty stuff. This is like vegetable tops and things like that. I'm going to put that in, or Grant's going to put that in to start us off and just to take up some of the space and also provide nutrients as it rots down. These beds were filled with topsoil from a friend. They were building a house, so they had a lot of topsoil from where the footprint of the house was that they didn't need. So we were lucky enough to be able to get their topsoil to fill these beds. But again, I also started most of them off with composty bits, and I have more compost stuff to put in, and then the top, maybe a third of it, will be soil, which will sink down as all of this rots, and I can just top it up because I have soil saved from where we've taken it out of beds. There we go, all ready for planting. You can fill it after you cap it, but we just didn't have capping wood available right now and we wanted to get this done. So I am actually going to plant this up, or sow carrot seeds probably, and get it started, and I'll cap it later. The last step in making the raised bed is to cap it. This is another optional step. You don't have to put capping on. I just feel like not only does it make it look finished and well put together, but it also stabilizes the sides and keeps them straight. This is how the beds look with capping. So that's what we are going to do now, is just finish off this last bed by capping it. To cap the beds, I use decking planks. They have a texture on the one side, but I just use that side up so that it's plain. There's different ways that you can cut your corners. If you wanted to do your corners just like that, you could, but that texture underneath is going to show from where the grooves are, and it's not going to look as neat or as finished. So I like to miter my corners and then fit them together. Different ways of doing that as well. You could put in one of these, use your handsaw. The way I was doing it was using one of these and drawing the line, and then using a jigsaw. You can use a handsaw, but today I'm going to be using the miter saw, and that's easy to just set at a 45-degree angle and cut my boards. I've measured the length of my raised bed and it is 207 centimeters, so I'm going to add 5 centimeters to the total length because we're going to have about a 2.5 centimeter overlap, which will make sense when I come to nail it all together. So I'm going to measure my boards, mark them, and then cut the front and the back board to the correct length. I need to start off with an angle to measure from. If your lengths of timber are not long enough to span the entire length of your bed, you can just join them up like that. To cut the bed, you pop your length on and make sure that it's sticking out the same amount, which is about 2.25 centimeters. I'll get that lined up. Make sure it's the same here. It isn't, it's actually slightly longer. Shift it that way. Is that right? And then I'm going to put a screw just on one end. When you've got one end secured, then you can double check that they're about the same overlap, and then do the other end and then fill in with some more in between. To gauge exactly where your screw or nail is going in the middle of the bed. At the end I could kind of see where it was, but here you want to measure and they're marked just next to where you've measured. This bed obviously bows slightly because that's come up further across. When you're choosing exactly where to attach your capping to the boards, choose your thickest ones. If you have a range of thicknesses, obviously you don't want to be going into your thinnest board, you want to go into a nice sturdy one. You also want to make sure that you're not accidentally trying to screw or nail right into a gap. One side done. The front and the back are in place, and there's two ways that you can get your side measurement. One is just measuring from that point to that point, and that's how long you cut your piece. The other way is to cut your angle on one end, put it into place, and then you can draw your line exactly where you need to cut. And then cut that. Doesn't that look better, all capped and finished? The last thing to do is stain it. You can stain them, as I mentioned, before you attach them, but I like to do it once they're attached because they're just held in place. I can get into all the nooks and crannies, like make sure that the stain drips down in the joins, and it's just a more convenient way to do it, I feel. 2 coats of stain later and the bed is complete, and that's how it turned out. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and I hope you found it useful. I would love to know if you are going to use these instructions to make your own raised bed, so let me know if your project turns out successfully. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.